Hello everybody, welcome back to the shop in the F-14. Last video I think I told you guys how I severely screwed up on my pivot brackets. Well, just to show y'all how bad I screwed up, here is the original, here is the new one. See the difference? Pretty substantial screw up on my part. Here's the two butted up against each other. You can see the pivot holes are about a 3/4 of an inch. It's actually like 7/8 of an inch further outboard on the new one, and then when you put it together, they're about 1.5 inches, well, about a 3/4 of an inch further aft on the new brackets. My source for these things is awesome. I placed an order for these things last Tuesday. They started Wednesday. They shipped them Friday, and here it is on. Well, I would have had them yesterday, but I would have had them on Monday. But I wasn't here to pick them up, so FedEx requires a signature on international stuff. So there we go. Anyway, new pivot brackets are here finally. I also, when I placed that order, I wasn't happy with a wood structure G10 or anything for the sweep actuators, so I had these nifty little guys machined up, and all they do is the actuator gets slid in through there. You'll have a number 8 equivalent diameter clevis pin that'll go through, and it'll have a cotter pin on the bottom, and that'll hold your sweep actuator to your wing with 4 832 bolts. And yes, I had 2 done. So I got everything to attach the sweep actuators to the wings. I got the stuff to attach the wings to the fuselage. Matter of fact, you see one of them attached already. The only thing is I need wings other than this one. This one's too heavy. I'm not using it. So as you can see, wings on there. Yes, it pivots. Nice and easy, guys. I mean, it is just all my planning on bearing usages and all that stuff is working out perfect. Yes, the flap fits. Not perfectly because that wing is laid up a little bit different than it needs to be done, and I've already adjusted that on the other two. You can see you put the flap in here, and once it's there, it'll be perfect. So all I gotta do is lay up some wings and get the wing panels joined up, and we'll be cooking with gas. Let me zoom in over here. I showed you guys on the one video the live hinging or whatever on the fairing usages. Just from the complex nature of the fuselage to wing intersection on an F-14, unless you have a cab model that you start off with, you're probably guaranteed not to get a very good fit, which is kind of another reason why I've wanted to make those the fingers on the overwing fairing hatches functional, so you get a really nice fit. As you can see, here's the overwing hatch, and once you get it on here, it actually fits pretty dang good back right here and down along the trailing edge. It gets a little high down here in the back, but that's fine. Up here along the front though, not so bueno. It's going to need a little bit of work, especially here along the fuselage. It's got a pretty big gap, and the bottom's got a fairly large gap as well. The reason for the gaps is because I had intentions from the very beginning making these fingers functional, and the bottom has some small fingers as well. They're not quite as noticeable as the top, but they're there. Got a strut mark here along the front. Like I said, unless you got a CAD model and you can get a perfect cutout here, it's going to be very difficult to get this perfect. So what I'm going to do is on the subsequent, on all future models, all of the air-X in this area here is going to be removed. That way this particular area here can be adjusted with some small bulkheads so I'll be placed in. That way you get a really nice tight fit. Or another thing I might do is, since there's a scale panel here, I may just completely remold this section off of this fuselage when I get it ready, and I'll adjust it with some G10 and some body fill and everything, get nice and pretty, and then remold that, and then this will be kind of like an insert that the owners will put in. This Overwing fairing hatch I haven't cut off the fingers yet, but I've got no reason to suspect that they won't bend down really well. As the wing comes out, you can see where I originally did that cutout, sort of. So that cutout gets removed altogether because it doesn't really need it. And again, wing swings back. About the sweep position, which would be about right there. You don't even need to cut out here in the wing. You know, I was kind of bummed that I had to put this cutout to begin with, but now with the pivot point almost a full inch further outboard, it's not necessary anymore. Or at least it won't be quite as large. So that is that. You can see I put a little, you roll the fuselage over here. See a little bit of an access hole here that way you can get to your bolts for inspection and everything. There's another one on the bottom. I don't foresee those being an issue ever as far as strength or anything, because the thickness right here is actually how thick the end plate of the box bar is. It's a good 3/4 of an inch thick or whatever. So that is that. Let me zoom you guys out again. The other way. I'll never get the zoom correct. So, as far as wing panels, I mentioned something about molding wing panels. So here we go. This is, well, here, I'll just hold it with a tripod. These are the right wing panels here. Well, this is the first right. Close the door, quit slamming it. This is the first right wing panel skins for these molds, pre-coat, and these things come out extremely easily. So, first ones are there, I've already trimmed them down. I've got to come in and drill the little pivot hole location on both of those, and then I'll use my little jigs to cut out the skin and the carbon spar and everything. You can just barely make out these little lumps you see under this portion of unidirectional. That's all that carbon fiber toe that was in here. So the same thing on this one. I didn't quite lump it up as much as I did on that wing panel over there, just because it was way overkill, to be honest. These have a thinner core material, a lot less carbon toe. I'm gonna say it's probably half as much carbon toe as there is in that wing panel. So I'm hoping that I have shaved about a ½ pound between these two wing skins just on removing some carbon fiber, or all that carbon fiber, and then the thinner core material. You also see the core material, I kept it away from the corners here a little bit, or at least from the edges along the trailing edge, just so it makes things a little easier. Future models, I'm probably going to remove everything where there's a nav light or an NVG light. That way, if whoever decides to put lights in the thing, you don't have this core material to worry about. It'll just be a thin layer of glass and a little bit of carbon toe here along the edges. Or I may even get some some fiberglass toe from that stuff there, which you can see from here that it's still a pretty good piece of fiberglass yarn. I'll just pull a bunch of strings off of it, full width of it, and then put it down here, and what that'll do is it'll make it nice and strong and an easy joint, but you won't have the stiffness of the carbon toe to have to cut through for doing your NVG lights and everything. Another thing I've thought about doing is actually tinting the epoxy, that yellowish green. So all you really have to do is put some LEDs back here, clean the paint off of it, polish it. It's not really polish, it's kind of a matte finish, but do that, and then the tinted epoxy and the tinted fiberglass will actually make it appear to have the correct color, and then you can just have like a yellow or a green NVG light or whatever through the back of it to illuminate it. But that's something I still got to think about. I got to attempt or try to do. It may be worthwhile just to vacuum form some lenses or something. Same thing goes for the NVG lights here on the nose and the fuselage and the vertical stabs and all that. Stuff that eventually I'll get around to doing, but not right now. Get this thing flying. And then stuff like the NVG lights for the hardcore scale guys who are gonna go and do competition. Options equal money. Because options mean more time means more money, and more money means more of my time. Anyways, right wing panel's laid up. The left wing panel mold, which is under there, yep, right there, the pink thing, that's laid up. Yes, I got both wing skins laid up. You can look at that vertical stab mold there, and you see the little wood backing and how it's hollow. Man, I love the stiffness, or the little stiffeners, because it gives you something for the mold to sit on so it doesn't roll around on you. But that makes it a pain to vacuum bag. So what I have been doing here lately is pink Foamure. I think it's made by Dow or Owens Corning or whatever, I don't know. Just take some pink foam. I think this stuff's about 1.5 inches, 2 inches thick or so, probably like 1.5 inches, and just cut it to fit in between your stuff. You can see down here in the hole, there's 2 layers of it. Double it up. Don't try and just put little things around the edges, because all it's going to do is everywhere there's something supporting it around the edges, it won't compress as much, but in the middle it'll suck down. But throwing your foam in there. And then you see I just got aluminum HVAC tape here around the edges to kind of hold it in. And it's also kind of covers up some of the nobules or whatever, the points that I haven't sanded off yet because I've been lazy. But did that. And then it keeps your vacuum bag from sucking down in there and bridging all in the corners. So you can actually use a smaller vacuum bag because you're not having to put all this excess. So you can get it down here in the corners so it doesn't rip a hole in it. These sheets are kind of expensive. A 2 foot by 2 foot sheet's like $5. I'd rather spend a little bit extra money and not have to have another 4x8 or 4x4 sheet or whatever standing up against the corner of my wall. Anyway, there's that. You can see no Airex here. You know, guys, when I say free coat is awesome, there you go. First pull. These are the first parts on this mold other than when I made the mold. And I've done nothing but trim it. I mean, you can see, even though this is just really thin glass, I mean, it peels right off. This Airex stuff is amazing. Or not the Airex, but the free coat. I love the stuff. No Airex here, where the spoiler is going to be. The reason for it is all of this is getting cut out. Everywhere you see just gray, and then the little Airex going around the hinge recesses, all that's going to get cut out. I'm actually completely redesigning the internal structure from what I did with that wing. That wing's really strong. I like the thickness and everything as far as how it's done. The thing I don't like about it is, let's unsweep the wing here. It's kind of nice to say that finally for once. But you can see the spar down in there is only about 1 inch or so. So the spar is actually right here along this back side of it. So what happens is you've got all these little recesses here for the spar, for the spoiler hinges, but the spar is right there in the way. And I don't want to move it back because then you're going to have really short hinges, and then you're going to see the spar through the spoiler openings. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this spar and I'm going to move it forward about 1 inch or so. It's going to be about 2.5 inches in front of this trailing edge. So the spar is going to be about right here, and then there'll just be little slots in it for your spoiler hinges to go in, which I've got all the spoiler hinge stuff drawn up in CAD already. So all that's ready to go. Flap hinges are all drawn up in CAD. I got to cut out some just cheap balsa ones to kind of fit, to see if they're actually the correct shape to fit in between the skins and everything. I got to start getting the flaps ready for hinges and all that. But that spar is going to get moved forward. I'm going to use a torque tube setup. It's going to be an axial woven carbon fiber tube. Very similar to what I did on the vertical stabs. So it's just a twill weave cloth that's woven. That way it's not like a pull treated rod where you can actually sit there and twist it and it'll just kind of fall apart, because pull treated is really just a bunch of carbon toes that are laid in there, and then they're like clamped together, so it's all unidirectional. This has actually got weave both directions, so this is actually a really strong tube, and you can see how thick that is. But this is actually inside here, and then it's inside the fuselage as well. But I'll use something like this, just smaller. Then I'll stick it in a jig in a CNC machine, drill holes. The holes will be for a carbon fiber rod that I go through. They'll get high sawed, and then an arm will go over, and that rod will be in a slot in that G10 or carbon fiber arm, and then all that gets high sawed together, and all of that gets done in a jig, possibly. I might actually leave that for the owners to assemble. I haven't decided yet. It just kind of depends on how long it takes me to do what's up for this thing. But with that torque rod, it'll have little arms sticking off and 2 little feeder arms that'll sit there and actuate the spoilers on it. And I'm working on getting enough deflection on the arms and everything in CAD to where I can get almost a full 90-degree deflection with the spoilers. And then from the pivot point to the pivot for the control arm on the spoiler to the pivot on the torque tube arm to the center of the torque tube, I'm working on getting that a straight line. That way when it's locked up at 90 degrees, there's no force on your servo. It's putting all the force on that rod and then the support posts in the wing for the rod. Anyway, lots of stuff to kind of still work out. And yes, I did say the CNC machine. I ordered one yesterday. I've been debating for years on getting one. Well, I haven't really been debating. I've had my mind made up that I was going to buy one. The one I wanted was a 2 foot by 4 foot cutting area. And I just don't have room in this shop anymore. In this little shop, I mean, you can see from one end all the way around. It's just full of stuff. If I get rid of that washer, that dryer, it'd be a little bit easier. But so what it is, I bought a 12 by 16 cutting area. It's a router from China. It's like 900 bucks shipped. Yeah, 900 bucks would have been a nice little chunk of change into the landing gear for this thing. But before I can close wing panels, I got to do all this spoiler and flap crap, hinge stuff. But router should be here a week from tomorrow. So it should be here on the 4th. Then I'll probably spend a month getting that working. God, I hope not. Anyway, when the CNC router shows up, I'll start up another couple little videos to kind of show what you get and all the trial and tribulation I end up fighting with that thing. The whole little wing incident setting thing. Here's what I'm in. You can sit there and, since there's only the center bolt now, you can just sit here and grab it, and you can see the bracket move, so you can adjust the wing incidence to whatever you need. And then once that's set, you just take the wing off, drill a couple of bolt holes, and whoosh, off you go. But yeah, so that's that. You see their box bar. This flange is trimmed nice and pretty up against the back side of the box bar. You can see where I've already kind of taken a bit of that out. And then the same thing on the other side, you got to trim out over there. But anyways, another thing I haven't shown you guys is the little tube there that we high sawed to the top fuselage skin before we close it up. I put a spruce filler block here between the carbon tube and this bulkhead, and high sawed that in. And yeah, I know the picture's all kind of wonky for you guys, but I did that. So now I got to drill some holes in here, then wrap it with carbon fiber tow, and it's like that on both sides. And I'm sure you guys saw all this stacks and stacks and stacks of fiberglass cloth. The little laminations I made up for the gear door stuff on here, to where you see the black carbon fiber, it worked really well. It gave me the recess I wanted, but the problem is I destroyed them when I took the fuselage out. And that's probably because of two things. One, they were made from an Arex sandwich core, and two, they were applied after I painted the fuselage, or the molds for the fuselage. And there was paint, and then the little moldings that were in there, and then there was more paint. There was paint, moldings, and then there was all the layup. So they actually got kind of like sandwiched between the layers of paint, so you couldn't really find them, so you had to dig for them or anything. So what I'm doing is, that cloth is what all of this is for. New set of nose gear doors, main gear doors, speed brakes, all that good stuff. And then a surface cloth here to make it a little bit easier to smooth out. I'm gonna lay up just solid glass cloth stuff for those doors. And I'll probably even get some scrap carbon fiber I got and put a layer of carbon fiber in there. So with 3 layers of that, a layer of carbon fiber and that stuff, these are gonna be almost 3mm thick, or if not right at 3mm. So they're gonna be really thick, which is about twice the thickness of what I've got for a flange now, which is what I should have done to begin with. But hopefully, my thoughts is since they're gonna be solid glass, they'll be a lot stronger and a lot stiffer, and they'll pop out a lot easier. At least that's the hope. So here in a little while, I'm gonna start laying those up, throw them in the bag. Probably start working on the structure for this thing. I gotta at least cut the holes out in this wing and the other wing. And yeah, anyways, that's where I'm at with this monster of an airplane. Whenever I do something exciting, I'll pop in the video camera and show you guys. So anyways, until next time, we'll see y'all back here in the shop.